Hey y'all! Here is a list of UTAU flags. Only resampler because if my silly crazy dream of making realistically tuned USTs for new users came to fruition, I would need to only use basic UTAU resampler flags. So no more sampler, no nothing. Excuse me. Here's the UST I'm looking at. And here's utawaview. I renamed a clip of me singing as temp and put it in the utawaview folder. The way you do that is you set target WAV file and it will put you in UTAU 1, the temporary. Copy and paste whatever you want to in here and rename it as temp, and it'll show up here and it'll do all of the calculations and all that fun stuff. And here is that one. So let's open up this. Now let's just play this, and I'm sorry for the tuning. Sorry. And I had started playing with this before I opened this up, so this saw isn't the same exact length as this one. So let's just go in here and let's change the properties to 25. That's closer, but it's a little pethy. So let's see what flags should do the rest. There's a super consonant. So let's go here and try. It doesn't want to do all those, I only want this one. So let's try putting Y0 here to see if it makes it clearer, nicer. Where'd you go, utawaview? And let's just do this to make it. It doesn't make it. Where is. Oh yeah, so now let's go to, we want to boost it. So we want it to be pretty rough. So which one was, so let's just try this for H50. Did you update? Yeah, and we're not going to get it right. Because nothing says just raise. Why do I feel like a dingbat? Dang. Now let's talk about some things about making USTs for everyone and everything. So if I were to fix this by just raising this up here, because this line is overlap and this line is preutterance, so this right here is the consonant itself. And now let's open up utawaview so you can look at it and press. It's not as much of a big change as I'd like. It's not exactly doing what I want it to, but that's okay, whatever. Now, the problem with doing this is that when you import a CV bank, and I will make the, is it recording? Yeah, it's recording. I'll make the claim that for VCV, as long as you're both using the same uniform, you can change and modify the envelopes and it'll be virtually identical between each bank. The issue is when you are using CV, and every CV bank will have a different pre-utterance and overlap for every single sample except for vowels, which are done when they're done the traditional way so that they can be affected by the vowel crossfadey thingy. They'll all be different, so there's no telling what this will look like, this envelope will look like when you import it into your bank. Import your bank into it. So it might, if you're trying to get popular by making USTs that literally anyone can use and make it sound good, your envelopes will basically be undone 50% of the time. Pitch bends in mode 2 will never be undone. They'll be the same for every single bank, no matter what you do. Envelopes will be wonky and undone half the time. I think that at least 1/3 of the time, your flags will be wonky between banks. But never ever, if you're trying to make a quote-unquote mass market UST, never change the doot-to-doot pre-utterance and overlap, because that will just screw things up, because people will have to clear things and all that stuff. That jacked up some stuff. But the reason you do that is because you will need to use this for a CV to make the vowel sound good. And when you do that, you have to make sure you don't change anything else, because if you change something else to make it work good, they'll have to erase all of the overlap and pre-utterance, which will erase all of the nice vowel work you did. And if it's a normal experienced user, they'll know how to just reuse that. But if it's a newer user, they won't know how to just use that. So anyway. So if you're going to be messing with the envelopes in by using the what's it called? By using utawaview to get them perfect, you need to realize that if you're doing utawaview first, you can't use utaris second, because guess what? All of those nice envelopes you perfect are going to get jacked up by utaris, because, you know, utaris, to be nice and really cool, it will not just copy the pitch, but it will also copy the envelopes, which is great as a base, but you can't use utaris after fine-tuning with utawaview. Utawaview has to come second. Anyway, so let's just go like this. As you can see, it rendered this out. So now we can just compare and contrast. Oof. Compare and contrast. What was I even saying? Alright, so I don't know if this was actually because I was, what's the word? Oh yeah, I had my fan on, so it never actually gets, below the, thing. What you would want to use the, oh man. What you would want to use the, I guess, Maybe that's from the fan being on when I sang that the thing is real connected. So the way you'd want to do it is that you'd want the power to look like this. This is the original, and this is the original power. And how zoomed in is this? That's 0 and that's 1. So that's about the same. So you'd want this to look like, yeah, you'd want this to look like this and this to look like this. But you will run into issues where your G's get all close together and it doesn't really have that cool, nice thingamajig. And you could fix that by editing odos or by, let's choose this. That one. Okay, so on properties, we want the overlap to come over like 10. So when we do this, you can see that there's less of a gap, and you can just keep doing this. And it just keeps getting closer and closer to how the original person sang it. But as I said, you cannot do that for a mass market UST because it won't work, basically. And then the people who download it to use with their CV bank will have to erase that, and then that will mess with the cross-faded vowels. So only do this if you're tuning your own specific bank. But if you did want to have that effect, without messing with the UST, you are free to edit the auto files. Yes. So that's how you'd get around something like this. Also, all these flags make my head hurt. They shouldn't. They make my head hurt. I have no idea what's going on. Anyway, so another way you can use this, let's just... So we can see that this one, it goes up, but then it goes down. So I love being able to read spectrograms. All right, so the sa is a little lower, and then the ga is where it picks up, and then ku, and now the no is probably around here. No. See, now we want this to be even closer to that. There. Yeah, we don't want anything being too high. So let's actually just move this all down. that last one's a So now you see that oh, now that makes sense. Okay, yeah. This isn't the same scale as this. This goes up to 65. This is only going up to 50. But if we shimmy this back up to 100, this is back to 50. Now, how much of this will get wrecked by the compressor? It depends on how high you set the compressor. So now the compressor, if you're not using Reaper, you're not using any kind of tools in Audacity, this means nothing to you. But when you're using a compressor in a digital audio workstation, that means that if you tell it, I want everything to be 45, but let some things through based on some settings, then all of this will be lost. But let's say you say, I want it to be 50, let some things through the settings. So if this little 5 would be fast enough that I think it would still be 55. It would all cut down here except for some of this stuff. So that sounds bad, but then you realize that there's going to be a lot of stuff less than 50. And does a compressor bring stuff up? I don't think so. I'm so tired. I tried. I really tried. Bye.